Hello. Thanks for coming back and joining me with Take 10 with Proverbs. Today we're looking at the ninth chapter, and the title is Imitation of Wisdom and Folly. I'm going to kind of read through these in their little paragraphs or sections and just probably comment on each section as we get through it today. First verse, ninth chapter of Proverbs. Wisdom has built her house. She has set up its 7 pillars. She has prepared her meat and mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her servants and calls from the highest points of the city. Let all who are simple come to my house. To those who have no sense, she says, come and eat my food and drink the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and you will live. Walk in the way of insight. So, looking at just the first couple verses here, we see this idea of 7 pillars, and there's some different perspectives on what that could mean. It could just simply be the architectural design of the day. 7 pillars is like a foundation, squaring and rounding things out, keeping it anchored. Or it could have actually even be alluding to a contrast into the pagan religions and how they had the 7 different pillars of their religion. It's hard to say which way Solomon actually meant this to be taken, but I just wanted to make that brief mention there that I would look at it myself as it's has a good sturdy base. Wisdom has a good sturdy base, and I think that's probably the thing we can take away there. It says she has prepared her meat, mixed her wine, and set her table. She has sent out her servants. I think of when we see the parable in the Gospels where we see that Jesus is talking about the invitation to salvation, where God prepares the wedding feast, if you will, and sends out to all who is invited and tell them it's ready, and they all come up with excuses. And then he goes out again, and a few come, and then he finally goes out to what you would say is the lowest of low in society and invites all of them. So I think if you was to look at that, you would see that he doesn't exclude anybody. He offers salvation to everybody, but not everybody accepts that invitation. Like that here, wisdom is being offered to anybody and everybody that would be willing to listen, to accept, to learn, to grow, to change. It is fine food and fine wine. It's the finest things in life. That's what wisdom provides. And when I say the finest things in life, I'm not talking about, the lifestyle of the rich and the famous. Because income level has nothing to do with whether you're righteous or unrighteous. It has nothing to do with how smart you are, although it certainly is tied to smartness. And poverty is often tied to, I don't want to say dumbness because that would be rude, crude, and incorrect, but poverty is often tied to the level of knowledge, recognizing the opportunities. I believe everybody has been given an opportunity to increase their starting point in life. And the more wisdom you get and apply, the better you will do in that arena. I often say, let's look at football and football. So we have American football, which is, in contrast, extremely different from European football. If you was to take an American football onto the European football field, it's not going to work, and vice versa. So when you start talking about success, you've been given a skill set, abilities, talents, and the opportunity to grow where you was planted. But when you try to take all of that and put it into a different arena, you're probably not going to succeed. And so you're not going to have the opportunities to grow or recognize the opportunities because you're completely in the wrong spot. But if you take and understand what all of those are, your skill set, your ability, your God-given talent, and you grow where you are planted, and then you put that to use in the arena at which you was designed to play in, then success comes. So you can't compare success on the soccer field in the same way as to success on the football field, because you're not matching apples with apples and oranges with oranges, and you're actually trying to get a mixed bowl of fruit. And although mixed jelly may be good, it's not the way that we were supposed to be living our lives. So when you take folly and you take wisdom, the mixed fruit, and you start mashing that together, you're never going to end up with any real success. And again, success does not mean or is speaking to financial freedom per se, although I do believe prudence and proper stewardship can get you to a place where you're not living paycheck to paycheck. You're managing your money the way God would have you manage it. You're using it the way He would have you use it. And I could probably go on for another half an hour about the idea of wisdom being set before us like a buffet with the finest foods and drink. Verse 7. Whoever corrects a mocker invites insult. Whoever rebukes the wicked incurs abuse. Do not rebuke a mocker, or they will hate you. Rebuke the wise, and they will love you. So here again, we see this contrast. And boy, that first couple verses, whoever corrects a mocker invites insult. That is so true. I've experienced it in my life. And if you try to bring the correction to somebody that's not open to correction, if they're not looking, honestly, don't even waste your time, because you're just going to get insulted. You're going to hurt yourself. You're going to probably hurt other people. It's just not going to turn out good. It's not worth it. If somebody shows interest in wanting to grow, wanting to change, they come to you, or if they give you some idea that they are willing to learn and change and grow, then by all means, try to lead them and guide them in correction with love and grace. But to just flat out try to tell them where they're wrong when they're not listening, it's a waste of time. And it is true. It invites insult to yourself. But whoever corrects the mocker invites that insult, as I said. 9. Instruct the wise, and they will be wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will add to their learning. How true that is. We just kind of spoke to that. If a person's hungry, if they're humble, if they're honeable, if they're teachable, then they're going to grow, they're going to be wiser, they're going to understand how to operate in the system of God's economy, and they're going to do much better in life. They're going to do better in relationships, they're going to do better financially, they're going to do better all the way around. Again, so often I think we look at prosperity or success and we want to tie that to a dollar. The all-American mighty dollar, the mighty dollar, or whatever your currency may be. If you're in Uganda, which many of you watch are from Uganda, the shilling. It's not all about the money or the resources of finances. It's about being balanced and living a righteous life according to God's standards, not human standards. Fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For through wisdom the days will be many, and the years will be added to your life. If you are wise, wisdom will reward you. If you're a mocker, you alone will suffer. So we see here, basically, we're going right back to Proverbs 1. For the beginning of wisdom is the knowledge of the Holy One. He is understanding. Again, with wisdom comes success. Not worldly success, but godly success. You're going to glorify God. You're going to increase your witness. You're going to have more influence. Things of this nature. And with all that comes the other things that too many people in the world chase after, which is fame, fortune. I think of, again, in the Gospels, Jesus says, seek first the kingdom of God, and then all these things will be added unto you. Well, most likely that all comes from exactly understanding what Solomon is sharing here in the book of Proverbs. Remember, Solomon was the wisest person back in the Old Testament, and I would probably even dare say even up until now, and beyond, short of Jesus Christ himself. Because even at a young age, when he took on the role of being king, he knew that he didn't know everything. And so the one thing that he knew, he was wise in this, he knew to ask for wisdom, to know how to govern and to rule. And so that's what he did. But now we're getting ready to turn the corner, and we're going to see the contrast where Folly is an unruly woman. She is simple and knows nothing. So I'm noticing and picking up on this as we go through these Proverbs, that wisdom and folly both are portrayed as a woman. And that's not to say anything against a woman, and it's not to necessarily elevate the woman. I think, as I spoke in that last video, the woman represents that motherly touch, that motherly instinct, that motherly teaching. And if you're not familiar with that video, go back to chapter 8, watch it, and then you'll understand what I'm saying there. But it talks about how she also sets her seats at the highest point of the city, and she calls out to those who pass by, who go straight on their way, and to the simple, and she invites them to come into her house. To those who have no sense, she says, stolen water is sweet. Boy, isn't that just how the enemy works? He deceives us. He makes us to think that that fruit hanging on the tree that God told us not to eat is because God wants to withhold something, when really what God was trying to do is to preserve something. So he wasn't trying to keep something from you. He was trying to make sure what you already had, you continued to have. Obviously, that was the spiritual and physical death. First, the spiritual death, and then after that was the curse of the physical death. And that has continued through. Although Jesus has redeemed us on that spiritual side of things, we are redeemed on the physical side when the resurrection comes, but our bodies will still experience that physical death. But it says, but little do they know that the dead are there, that her guests are deep in the realm of the dead. That is what folly does. It takes us to a place of regret. It takes us to a place of loneliness. It takes us to a place of solitude. It takes us to the deep, dark pit of life that can bring depression and oppression, recession. And when people don't want to put the effort into growing and changing, they run the risk of ending up in those places. You know, again, on this whole idea of success, people that are successful in any arena, on any level, are people that do the work. They are the ones that grow, that change, that apply the knowledge they receive, and then they gain wisdom based on that knowledge through that practical application. And so if you want to grow as a person, if you want to learn as a biblical student, if you want to grow in your profession or whatever it is that your job is, if you want to grow as a father or a mother, all these things require work. Work was never meant to be fun, but it can be if you change the perspective of your thinking. It's called a paradigm shift. Shifting the paradigm. I have this little phrase, I say, the world is my classroom. And really what I'm saying is, I'm constantly looking for ways to learn, to grow, to better myself. But it's not so that I'm better in of myself. It's so that I can be a better witness to God. It's so that I can glorify God in other ways, and ultimately any way and every way at which he chooses to allow me to do that. But it's for the benefit of others. So wisdom benefits us when we practice it, but it can also benefit others through giving godly counsel, through our witness of how to act in certain situations, how to respond rather than react. I can't say enough about what wisdom can do for a person's life if they will grab a hold of it, if they'll sit down at that table and eat the fruit of life. I hope this teaching has been helpful. Again, like, share, subscribe, pass it on to those that you know. God bless, and have a great day.